What if a few years from now, the people who feel the most financially secure are the ones who look exactly the same as they do today? No upgrades, no visible milestones, nothing obvious to point at. I know someone who fits that pattern perfectly. He drives a mid 2000s Corolla, buys jeans from Costco, cuts his own hair. His neighbors assume he's barely getting by. What they don't see is a net worth in the low seven figures. At the same time, someone else nearby posts luxury cars, designer clothes, and constant travel, while quietly sitting a few months away from real trouble. Nothing dramatic separated those two paths at first. The difference was subtle but consistent. One person let outside expectations accumulate more visibility, more pressure, more spending without ever deciding to. The other set boundaries early and kept their finances insulated from those forces. I look at money through systems, not success stories. Patterns repeat, outcomes follow structure, and visibility changes behavior far more than most people realize. I'm Alex. Today we'll look at how wealth is built by staying unseen, moving from everyday behavior to the deeper mechanics that allow money to compound quietly. Because the people who understand this early don't just feel calmer. They exit the game decades sooner. And the first principle that explains why challenges almost everything people are taught about what success is supposed to look like. Number 1, the invisibility advantage. Most people assume wealth should be obvious. A nicer car shows up, the house gets bigger, vacations become louder. But the moment money becomes visible, it stops being yours alone. Here's the pattern that quietly breaks people. Income improves, and nothing goes wrong financially. Bills are paid, savings exist, yet expectations start forming around them. Friends suggest upgrades, family assumes flexibility, coworkers notice changes and adjust how they treat you. None of this is malicious, it's automatic. Visibility invites pricing. When people see success, they subconsciously assign your money new roles. Picking up checks, being generous, living up to a version of progress you never agreed to. Spending increases not because life improved, but because image did. The people who actually build lasting wealth avoid this trap early. Their lifestyle stays visually flat even as their balance sheet grows. Same routines, same car, same answers when asked how things are going. From the outside, nothing changes. Internally, everything compounds. This isn't secrecy, it's insulation. When no one can see your financial growth, no one can pull on it. There's no pressure to upgrade, explain, or perform. Real wealth doesn't need witnesses. It needs time consistency and space to work. Invisibility provides all three. And the longer it stays unnoticed, the harder it becomes to stop. Number 2, the stealth savings method. In a quiet Vermont town, a janitor wore the same coat for years, drove an old car, and lived in a small house. People assumed he was just getting by. When he died, it turned out he had accumulated roughly $8 million. Nothing about his life hinted at it. That contrast explains more than most finance advice ever does. Wealth often disappears through social friction, not bad decisions. A bonus comes in and suddenly there's an unspoken expectation to celebrate. A promotion hits and dinners get nicer. Not because spending makes sense, but because not spending feels strange. Stealth savers remove that pressure entirely. Extra money never sits around long enough to attract attention. Raises bonuses, side income tax refunds. Everything above their normal baseline is redirected automatically into investments the same day it arrives. Here's why that matters. Money you see feels usable. Money you don't see feels permanent. When income never touches your lifestyle account, your habits don't adjust upward. Compare two coworkers. One announces a raise, upgrades the car, and locks in a higher monthly burn rate. The other keeps driving the same car and lets the difference compound quietly. 5 years later, one feels stretched. The other feels optional. Stealth savings isn't about hiding from people. It's about hiding money from impulse expectation and routine. When growth stays invisible, it keeps working. When it's visible, it starts leaking. Number 3, subtract before you add. Most money problems don't start with low income. They start with accumulation. Each raise brings another subscription. Each move adds furniture. Each convenience becomes permanent. Nothing feels reckless, but fixed costs quietly harden. Walk through a typical home. Closets packed with clothes worn once. A treadmill acting as a coat rack. 3 streaming services running every month. A gym membership for motivation. Each item looks small. Together, they absorb every future raise. People who build wealth reverse the direction. Before adding anything new, they subtract. Not to be frugal, but to regain flexibility. They know every possession carries ongoing costs, purchase price, storage space, maintenance time, mental attention, and friction when life changes. Ancient thinkers noticed this long before modern consumerism. One argued that wealth wasn't having nothing but wanting less. Another lived with almost nothing and couldn't be pressured by power or status because there was nothing to take away. Different extremes, same insight. You don't need philosophy to see the effect. Start removing what you don't use and watch what happens. Monthly expenses drop, decisions simplify, the urge to upgrade weakens, money stays unassigned longer. That's the point. Subtraction creates margin. Margin creates optionality. Optionality allows money to compound without being constantly redirected. Adding is easy. Anyone can do it. Subtracting feels uncomfortable because it exposes how much weight you've been carrying without noticing. Remove first. Let the system breathe. Add only when something truly earns its place. A moment of stillness. Let's slow this down for a moment before moving on. Imagine this happens tomorrow. Your income jumps unexpectedly. Not a fantasy raise, a real one. Enough that you could upgrade a few things without stress. Now pause and answer this honestly without explaining it to anyone. Which reaction feels most natural? Option 1, you immediately improve visible parts of your life. A nicer place, better car, more convenience. Nothing extreme. Just aligning lifestyle with income. Option 2, you optimize harder. Better tools, better services, more efficiency. You justify it as being smart with money. Option 3, you change almost nothing. The money is redirected away from daily life and quietly stored or invested. Here's the uncomfortable part. The first choice increases pressure. The second increases complexity. Only the third preserves capacity. This isn't about discipline or intelligence. It's about tolerance for stillness. Most people struggle to sit with unused capacity. Money that isn't doing something visible feels wasted, so it gets assigned a role. That instinct is exactly what the next principle confronts. Because once income is protected, the real threat isn't earning or saving. It's what enters your life quietly, piece by piece, and hardens into permanent cost. What comes next isn't about income at all. It's about what you allow to accumulate after the money arrives. Number 4, the one in one out rule. Most spending doesn't feel dangerous in the moment. A late night scroll turns into a new jacket. A quick stop at Target turns into 2 bags. A gadget promises efficiency. Nothing breaks immediately. That's why it keeps happening. The one in one out rule introduces friction where modern spending has none. If something new comes in, something old must leave. New shoes mean an old pair gets donated. New kitchen tool means one gets thrown out. If you can't identify what's leaving, you don't buy. This changes behavior faster than budgets ever do. Buying stops being emotional and becomes comparative. You're no longer asking, do I want this? You're asking, is this better than what I already own? Most purchases fail that test. Here's the part people underestimate. Every item you keep carries a quiet tax. Space to store it, time to clean it, energy to manage it, attention to remember it exists. Multiply that by hundreds of items, and you get a constant mental drain that never shows up on a statement. There was a woman living in a small apartment with about 100 possessions. Everything fit into 2 suitcases. Friends thought it was extreme. She invested the money she didn't spend and quietly built a multi-million-dollar portfolio. She didn't lack options. She eliminated noise. When consumption has a hard limit, spending slows automatically. Homes feel lighter. Decisions get easier. Money stops leaking through small, forgettable purchases. One in, one out isn't restrictive. It's a filter. And filters are how wealth stays contained long enough to grow. Number 5, optimize for time, not convenience. Convenience looks harmless because it shows up in small numbers. A food delivery here, a ride share there. Same-day shipping because it feels efficient. Nothing feels like a big decision, yet the total quietly compounds. Take a simple example. An $18 meal turns into $35 after fees and tips. The food didn't improve. You just paid an extra $17 to avoid 20 minutes of effort. That's an hourly rate most people don't actually earn. Wealthy minimalists don't obsess over convenience. They obsess over time. There's a difference. Convenience reacts to the moment. Hungry now? Busy now? Tired now. Time optimization plans ahead. Meals are prepped once. Errands are batched. Decisions are made fewer times. Run the math honestly. Someone earning $50,000 a year makes about $25 an hour. That means a $15 delivery fee costs more than half an hour of real work. A $40 ride costs over an hour and a half of labor. Framed that way, convenience stops feeling efficient. This isn't about being cheap. It's about choosing where effort goes. Doing a little work up front protects dozens of future hours of income. That trade is invisible, but powerful. Most people outsource effort and keep the bill. Wealthy people invest effort once and keep the margin. Convenience is a luxury. Time is an asset. Treat them differently, and the numbers start working in your favor without increasing income at all. Number 6, the 72-hour rule. Most purchases don't come from need. They come from timing. A notification hits late at night. A countdown timer creates urgency. Only 3 left turns hesitation into action. 6 minutes later, the order is placed. 3 weeks later, the item is barely used. That pattern isn't accidental. Advertising is designed to bypass patience. The goal is to close the gap between desire and action before thinking shows up. When that gap is short, spending feels justified, even when it isn't. The 72-hour rule stretches that gap on purpose. See something you want. Save it. Screenshot it. Walk away for 3 full days. No analysis, no bargaining, just time. Here's what happens in real life. After a day, the excitement cools. After 2 days, alternatives appear. After 3 days, most items lose their grip entirely. The desire wasn't real. It was borrowed from marketing. People who use this rule consistently notice something unexpected. They don't feel deprived. They feel calmer. Decisions stop chasing emotion and start aligning with priorities. One person tracked this for 2 years and redirected over $8,000 simply by waiting. No budgeting tricks, no restriction, just delay. Patience compounds the same way money does. Every purchase you don't rush preserves cash attention and optionality. There's a difference between I can't have that and I'm choosing not to yet. One creates scarcity. The other creates control. Slow the decision. Let desire expire on its own. What remains after 72 hours is usually worth keeping. Number 7, the quality over quantity paradox. Cheap feels responsible. Expensive feels reckless. That instinct costs people more money than almost anything else. Here's how it plays out. Someone buys a $10 pair of boots. They wear out in a year. So they buy another and another. Over a decade, they've spent the same $100 as someone who bought one solid pair that lasted 10 years. The difference is comfort, reliability, and replacement stress. This shows up everywhere. A $30 chair that wobbles gets replaced twice. A $500 chair lasts a decade and stops back pain. A drawer full of dull knives costs more than one good knife that actually works. Cheap items demand attention. Quality items disappear into the background. Wealthy minimalists don't chase low prices. They chase low replacement rates. They buy fewer things, but each thing earns its place by lasting longer and working better. The math makes it obvious. Cost per use matters more than sticker price. A $300 coat worn 1,000 times costs less per wear than a cheap coat replaced every winter. One looks expensive at checkout. The other is expensive quietly. Over time, this changes more than spending. Closets get smaller, decisions get simpler, maintenance drops. Money stops leaking through constant replacements. Minimalism isn't about buying nothing, it's about buying once. When purchases last, attention frees up. When attention frees up, money stays invested instead of constantly being recycled back into stuff that breaks. Quality reduces noise. Noise is expensive. Number 8, the freedom formula. Most people think freedom comes from earning more. In practice, it comes from needing less. There's a simple equation that makes this uncomfortable very quickly. Take what you spend in a year and multiply it by 25. That number is the amount of invested assets required to stop working without running out of money. No guesswork, no motivation, just math. Spend $40,000 a year. Freedom sits around $1 million. Spend $60,000, it jumps to $1.5 million. Spend $30,000, it drops to $750,000. Same market, same returns. Different lifestyle assumptions, completely different finish lines. Here's where most people get stuck. They work for decades trying to grow assets while expenses quietly rise alongside income. Promotions feel good, but the target keeps moving. The treadmill speeds up. The exit stays far away. Now flip it. 2 people earn the same $75,000. One spends $70,000 and saves $5,000. The other lives on $40,000 and invests $35,000. At normal market returns, one stays locked in for 40 years. The other reaches optionality in about 15. Nothing heroic happened, no special skills, no luck, just a controlled expense base. This formula is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. You can chase more income, which takes time and uncertainty. Or you can reduce what freedom costs starting now. Every dollar you don't need to spend is a dollar you don't need to earn forever. That's the quiet leverage most people never use. Freedom isn't hidden in complexity. It's hiding in plain arithmetic. Number 9, the invisible income strategy. A raise hits your paycheck, and for a moment, everything feels fine. Nothing breaks. Bills are covered. Then the adjustments begin. A nicer place seems reasonable. The car payment creeps up. Eating out becomes normal. 3 months later, the extra money is gone, and no one can explain where it went. That's not poor discipline, it's exposure. When income is visible, it gets absorbed into lifestyle automatically. The money is seen acknowledged and assigned a role before it ever has a chance to become capital. Spending rises not because needs changed, but because capacity appeared. People who build wealth quietly run a different setup. When income increases, their lifestyle stays exactly the same. Same rent, same routines, same spending ceiling. The raise never lingers in a checking account long enough to be felt. It's redirected immediately into investments out of sight. That invisibility matters. Money you see feels available. Money you never see feels permanent. Habits form around what's visible, not what exists in theory. Think about two coworkers. One celebrates a raise with upgrades and locks and higher monthly costs. The other tells no one keeps life flat and lets the difference compound. A few years later, one feels pressure. The other feels margin. Wealth doesn't come from earning more once. It comes from protecting increases every time they happen. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is where wealth lives. Most people let that gap close the moment it opens. Quiet builders widen it and guard it. Keep income invisible long enough, and it stops feeding lifestyle. It starts buying freedom instead. Key takeaways. What ties all of this together isn't discipline income level or intelligence. It's exposure. Most financial stress isn't created by a single bad decision. It's created by a series of small, socially reinforced choices that quietly harden into structure. Visibility invites expectations. Expectations create spending. Spending closes the gap that wealth needs to exist. The patterns you've seen here all work for the same reason they delay assignment. They keep money, time, and attention unclaimed long enough for compounding to do its job. Not dramatically, not publicly, consistently. The real shift isn't learning how to earn more or optimize harder. It's learning how to leave capacity unused without feeling anxious about it. That's rare, and it's powerful. People who stay flexible longer gain options earlier. People who perform progress lock themselves into costs they have to defend. Quiet wealth isn't built by doing extraordinary things. It's built by refusing to let ordinary pressures decide for you. What comes next builds directly on this, because once income is protected, accumulation becomes the real battlefield.